Okay, welcome everybody to the kindergarten and first grade coffee. Glad you can all be here today. I'm just going to kind of go over our agenda. First, I'm going to introduce people. I'm Laura Kennedy, I'm the lower school director. People have met me. And we also have today with us Dr. Kristin Whithey, who will be sharing a little bit about her program. We have Mr. Scott Pasieka, aka Mr. P, who will be talking about his programs. We also have in the back there Ms. Cleland, our first grade team leader, who, if I can't answer some of your questions, she should be able to as well. So our agenda for today, we're going to go over a couple of curriculum updates. I'm going to talk a little bit about our reading program and social studies. I'm going to talk about Character Strong, which is our social emotional learning program. Good Citizenship program. A few reminders about lunch, because lots of picky eaters out there in kindergarten and first grade. So just want to remind you of a few lunch reminders. Talk about PE, our school family program, and then Dr. Whithey and Mr. Pasieka will talk about their program, and we'll have time for question and answers as well. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our approach to curricular review and changes. We're really taking a measured approach to change. So, we're looking, this is a great school, excellent teachers. I'm really happy to be here. The kindergarten and first grade teams are among the best I've seen at the schools I've been in, super strong. And the program is super strong. So we're not looking at change just for change's sake, but we're looking for ways that we can take it to another level, ways we can update curriculum. So in this first year, it's really kind of like another first year for me. Jeremy and I joke that it's my second first year, because I'm seeing a lot of programs for the first time. For example, pancake breakfast for the first time, programs for the first time, those kind of things. So those are things that, I'm just going to be looking at this first year and like, oh, is there a way we can improve it, make it more organized, those kind of things. But as far as curriculum, we look at research to inform our decision making. There's a lot out there that works. And we also look at neuroscience. So brain breaks is an example. Years ago, those of you who went to school here, or the way we grew up, a lot of the teaching was lecture at you, sitting there for 30 minutes. We now know that kids cannot sustain that, especially kids of your age. There should be short chunks of information. So you'll see the teachers taking a lot of brain breaks. You'll hear your kids coming home, oh, we did a go noodle today, we took a brain break. And that's really effective teaching that we're looking at neuroscience and the way kids' brains work to inform our teaching practice. Another example is classes today aren't as quiet as they used to be. So an expression that I really like, the teachers will do a lot of turn to your partner and talk to them. An expression I like is if you want them to hear it, you talk. If you want them to learn it, they talk. So classes are a little noisier. So those are the kind of things that we look at to inform our teaching and why it's not the same as it was 30 years ago. And sometimes we will look at research and we'll say, that maybe that works, maybe that's what the general schools look at, but at Meadows, we do it slightly differently. So we look at the research and we say, we're going to do it slightly differently. But for the time being, what we've been doing is looking at updating some of our older textbooks. So some of our textbooks have copyrights of 20, even 30 years. And so a school of our caliber, in my opinion, should not be using outdated textbooks. There's many reasons for that. There's no support for those kind of textbooks, so usually they've gone out of print for a reason. The characters, there's a lack of diversity in those kind of textbooks. So I took a look this year at last year with the team, what could we update, what do we need to update right away, and what can wait? And so I started with the books and the programs that the teachers themselves wanted to change. And so in kinder and first, one of the needs was with literacy. What could we do to update our literacy program? So, and just to before I get into the literacy, just another change that we made is to look at consistency across grade levels. We implemented team leaders at each grade level. So Ms. Cleland is a team leader and Ms. Newman is a team leader in kindergarten. And that's really to look at consistency across our grading practice, across how we treat behavior, how we treat homework, so that generally it doesn't matter what teacher you have, you're getting the same experience. So just talk a little bit about our new program, Intro with Reading. I have a few samples up here you can take a look at later. But it's a well-researched, really successful program from Mifflin Harcourt. We had the K-1 team. We looked at every reading program out there. It took several months to look at all the programs, to try them in the class, to talk to the reps, to go to presentations. And this is the one we felt suited Meadows the best. The big difference is it's an integrated program. In past years, the teachers pulled from many different programs. If you see our storage areas, there's books from all different publishers, all different programs, And they worked hard to create an integrated program, but it wasn't necessarily integrated itself. And so this program integrates phonics, reading, spelling, writing, grammar, are all integrated. So your child benefits from that, that we know there's no gaps and no holes. And the leveled readers as well are super high interest. There's much more diversity shown than in our past editions of textbooks, and the content is updated as well. I'm just going to give you a couple examples. Phonics is at the heart of this program. So working with phonics through games, through slides, through songs, through workbooks, you'll see phonics in all different ways, and it's a super important part of the foundation of the program. Also what we like is, in the past, if the kids were working on phonics and then they were reading, the two didn't necessarily go together. This program marries the two of them. So this is a book called, is it the Go Right Reader? Yeah, it's one of the readers. And so if they're working on words like this, then in their reading, the words all show up. Makes sense, right? And that gets reinforced. But in our previous program, it didn't necessarily happen that way. The reading was separate from the phonics. So we really like that aspect of the program, and we think it will bring stronger readers. Another couple of components of the program, these power words and vocabulary. So it's all there for the teachers to work on. And then a direct focus on reading skills. So this is a flip chart mini lesson. So the kids are working on making inferences, for example, here. So as I mentioned before, the readers are super high quality, high interest. There's a lot more nonfiction. And I have samples up there as well, so if you want to take a look later. Social studies. So we have updated social studies as well in the lower grades. In kindergarten, they use social studies weekly. And in first grade, they use impact social studies. And again, it's updated to content. Using a textbook from 15, 20 years ago is particularly in social studies, is not good practice. So we've updated the content. There's a lot more primary source material for the kids to look at, which is important. And most importantly, the depth and quality of critical thinking is much more evident in these programs. So you'll see in the student workbook, it's not just what was rote learning. They use words at the higher level of Bloom's taxonomy. So you'll see right from a young age, compare, contrast, analyze, interpret, investigate, find evidence. And that's the backbone of good social studies teaching. So we really like this program and hope that you'll, again, see an improvement in social studies. I'm going to talk a little bit about Character Strong. It's our social emotional learning program. And so what is social emotional learning? It's really just an acronym for working on skills of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. All things that good teachers have been doing in the classroom for years, but it just puts a little more of a spotlight on it. And why do we need it? So an important factor is, there's loads of studies that show this, but one of the studies that I looked at is that it increases students' academic performance. So this one study was 11 percentile points. So it doesn't just improve behavior, but improves test scores as well. It also reduces aggression and emotional distress among students, increasing helping behaviors in school, and improves positive attitudes. So it also improves school climate. I like this slide, this is from our program. The simplest definition of climate is how people on your campus feel on a daily basis. And we want our kids to feel good about coming to school, feel good about their friendships, feel good about their relationships with each other, with their teachers, with their administrators. And the main part of this program is that we have a monthly theme, and I've been posting that in the weekly memo. You've seen it in the hallways. Hopefully kids have been coming home and talking about it. And they're all traits that I think we can all agree are wonderful traits to have: courage, respect, perseverance, gratitude. And the way it works in the classroom, it's different per grade level and per class, but it doesn't take a lot of time. It's usually about a 5-minute per day activity. Some of the older grades might chunk it into one lesson a little longer. But it gives the program gives us things like definitions. We'll talk about definitions at the beginning. It'll be activities ranging from videos, discussion prompts, stories. They have great stories that come with all of these things. So we're learning about respect, we're reading books about respect, gratitude, etc. And I try to put little prompts in the weekly memo too to help parents. And Courtney has all of the books as well in there. So if you do want to follow up at home, you can check out books on these subjects as well. Moving on to our Good Citizenship program, we changed it a little last year. due to the fact that there were no programs. So there's mostly kindergarten parents here, I think. So there's a few first grade parents. So some of you wouldn't even know what the old way was, but we used to present it at our programs. And we stopped doing programs last year. So what we did seemed to work well last year. It seemed to be a hit, particularly among the students. So I'm just going to kind of explain the way it works. So it used to be on a schedule. It was, during programs, so it was every 2 weeks, once a month kind of thing. Now it happens naturally, so there's no schedule. A teacher can recognize a student for good citizenship at any time, and any teacher, so it doesn't have to be their homeroom teacher. Any teacher gives an award, and what they get in their homeroom is they get what we call a green slip. It's kind of taken that nickname on. They get a green slip that it says the student's being recognized for this particular action. They come to my office, they have a chat with me about it, they sign a book. I give them a sticker if they're younger just to hold them over, because what happens is I put a certificate in the mail. And so they get this good citizenship certificate in the mail. On the back it says what they did, and again, it's very specific. We like it because it focuses on classroom traits, but it also focuses on classroom goals. And we like that the students really understand why they got it. So the other day I saw somebody in my room who got a certificate for courage, for showing courage, and we had a discussion about what that meant. Why were you courageous? What did you do? Why do you think your teacher gave you that award for courage? And it also eliminates the stigma of receiving an award at the end of the year, which the second half of the year can be tough for you as parents. If your kid does not receive an award at the beginning of the year, it can be hard to kind of keep saying, hang in there, you'll get it. So again, this can happen at any time. While it isn't super public, the kids do know about it. So it becomes public in the classroom. So the kids, when they get it, they will talk to each other. What did you do to get it? Oh, I helped a friend play kickball the other day. I helped them with their math facts, that kind of thing. So that's a little bit about the Good Citizenship Program. Our lunch reminders is, with hot lunch in particular, just really try to make sure that your child likes the lunch that day. I'm at lunch every single day lately, and so many kids are telling me, I don't like this, I told my mom, I told my dad, I don't like this, and they can be very picky and tell me exactly why. I only like tater tots when they're burned, those kind of things. Like, okay. Tells me a lot about your family's cooking. We always have sandwiches or salads available too, but that the salads in particular aren't, in my opinion, enough to sustain somebody for lunch. And so please ask your kids too who are bringing lunch from home. This is another surprise when they're bringing lunch from home and they're telling me they don't like it, and then they just want to throw it out and not eat lunch. And so I'm going to be trying to tell them to put it back in their lunch pail so that you get it back at home and you can kind of make adjustments there. It would also be really helpful with the little ones if they could open things themselves. So we are around, we have scissors around and things to open the Go-Gurts and all that stuff, but if they could open things themselves, that would be very helpful. And please know too, they are given time, extra time to eat lunch if they need it. Some of them don't want that extra time because they see their friends go out to recess, but I've heard from some parents, they only have 10 minutes. They actually have much more than that if they need it. So know that. PE classes. So a couple of things about PE. We have increased class time slightly to meet national standards. So twice a week, they have 45-minute periods all together on Mondays and Thursdays. So that gives us a little more time. It gives us more opportunities too to differentiate. When we have all the kids together, we can differentiate by skills, by stations, that kind of thing. Fifth graders are going to start working with the assessments that the U.N. Performance Team uses in middle and upper school. And also kinder through fourth grade will be assessed twice a year on their locomotor skills, motor skills, and strength, and you will be receiving that report at home. And then we'll use that information to inform our program and see if we can make improvements to actually helping develop their skills and strength. Okay, and finally, before I turn it over to Dr. Whithey and Dr. Pasieka, I just want to mention school families, which happened last week for the first time. First grade parents, hands, a couple. Okay, so some of you hopefully heard your kids come home talking about school families. So what that is every student, kinder will start next month, every student in the school is assigned to a school family. So we have groups of about 20 to 22. All of the adults are assigned to school families as well. And the idea is that the senior is the head of the family and they run activities designed to bring us together and bond. It was super well organized for the beginning. I thought there'd be kids kind of lost going around campus, looking for because we're meeting all around campus. As you can imagine, we have 41 family groups. We use classrooms here, up there. And so your kids possibly have varied experiences. A lot depended on the senior. So like in my group, my senior was kind of quiet and shy. The adults had to take over a little bit to prompt them a little to get the bonding going. Other seniors just took to it right away. I saw one senior who was leading his family in a family chant as they walked back already, and those kids were just mesmerized. And that's what we're going for. But just know if your child was in one of the quieter groups, we're working on that. We're working to make high engagement. So hopefully by the end of the year, your kids will come home with stories about their family and their senior and their junior and their 8th grader and things like that. So it's really designed to bring community, and we're really excited about that program. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Whithey, who's going to tell us a little bit about her program. Dr. Whithey.
Hi everybody, I'm happy to see so many faces on campus. It's good to actually be able to connect with you in person. I'm the academic learning specialist here. So I'm sorry, I'm not actually accent colors. But I work here to help support the unique learning needs of all of our students. I'm one half of the student support team. The other half is sitting right next to Ms. Kennedy and will come up next. I work to make sure that the learning needs specifically are being met. So I work with teachers to help brainstorm additional lesson ideas or strategies they could use in class. I work and help support Ms. Kennedy and those teams to look at the curriculum, making sure that we are giving the highest level instruction that we can be to all of our students. And then I also work with one-on-one or small group of students who have unique learning needs, whether that be that we need to target one very specific math skill to help get them up to grade level expectations, or if there is a student who is well above and needs additional challenges, that's where I can step in as well to help support that learning need. I also work with students who have specific diagnoses to make sure that we have a student support or student success plan in place here that provides some accommodations that teachers can use to help make their classroom experience the most successful to meet their learning needs. But most importantly for you, I can serve as a resource to help connect you with learning ideas at home or community resources like tutors or additional ways to engage students, or if you want to explore additional diagnoses or anything like that, I am your resource to help connect you there. And then I'm also a resource if you want to do activities with your students at home but you don't know what you could be doing. This year we are starting a new program that is a lending library of fun educational activities. So every Monday you have the opportunity, if you send me an email, there's a list of a whole bunch of these family take-home kits. In these kits, there are different games that you can play, high-interest booklets. Everything has instructions for you of what you could do with your kiddo to work on a specific skill. Once you get into first grade and above, it's kind of just a reading packet or a math packet. If you're in kinder, we have very specific skills like rhyming or sight words, things like that that you can work on. So you will keep this kit for 1 week and then you can turn it back in and get a new kit if you want to, or it can be once a month you bring home one fun kit to work on. But we do have these in the Learning Lab, and I will be sending out a little bit more of information to all of the families as well, kind of introducing this. We'll have a sign-out process, everything like that. And then for first grade students, we are also going to be establishing something that we're calling PALS, which is a structured after-school time where we target very specific learning skills needed. And so teachers will be reaching out to you about PALS in the next few weeks. If your child is somebody who might need a little bit more time focusing on a certain skill in a game-like structure, we will hopefully be bringing down some of our middle and high school students to help lead those games and target some of those skills. And then I'm going to turn it over to my other half.
I guess before you can understand what I'm trying to do at schools, you've got to know why I'm in school. So a little bit about my background. I am an LCPC, which stands for a Licensed Clinical Professional Counselor. That scares some folks. Like, oh my gosh, you're going to do so much therapy too much. Not what I'm here to do, less needed. But that license has allowed me to do a lot of different kinds of things. I worked in hospital settings with kids with competencies. I worked with individual practices with family therapy. And eventually I got to schools where I absolutely fell in love. My educational background regarding my experiences, I come from Chicago. I started in public schools, I went to a couple of private schools, and ended up in independent schools, right in the middle of the city. And I just love it. I'll tell you why I love it. First of all, the kids are hilarious. I literally laugh every single day with the children. They're amazing, they're hilarious, and it feels like it keeps me young, which my hairline is telling me is an important thing to do. The kids also have an amazing perspective. They teach me things. That is something that I tell them in every single class. My class is called SEL. The kids call it CEL. They try to tell them CEL has another L, but they just keep calling it CEL. It stands for Social and Emotional Learning. In my class, I am not the teacher. In my class, we are all the teachers. We are all the students. Everyone has experience with socializing. Everyone has experience with emotion. Everyone should be learning from each other because it's my belief that if I'm willing to listen to you, I can learn from you. Kids teach me things all the time. I was at recess duty the other day, and I saw two kids who were in 5th grade playing basketball, bump into each other. Oh, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And then see two kindergartners bump into each other. Exact same thing happens. And they hug each other. Kids reminded me how easy it can be to let go of anger. How quickly I can move on. Kids at your age are smarter than we all think as adults. I think one fallacy I had as an adult until I got really working with kids is that I underestimated children's cognitive ability. I underestimated their emotional intelligence, and I felt like I had to teach them. I do feel like I had to teach them, but I also feel like I want to empower them to teach each other. I believe agency is one of the most important things we can give kids. Give kids ownership of their learning, teach them how to teach themselves, teach them how to teach each other. At this age, my program involves a lot of experiential learning. I try to create situations that are developmentally appropriate that can coach kids' skills that hopefully they can then generalize in the real world. I can tell a kid, you should share because it's important. Or they put a kid in a Lego project with his friend and say, now we only have enough Legos to build 1 or 2 things. How are we going to compromise and share with them? I try to create situations where I believe the kids will encounter in the real life, in the real world. And so when they walk into those, they have some tools, they're armed, they're skilled. Another reason I chose schools was because my experience with school counselors led me to believe that it was a deficit in education. A lot of my school counselors were kind of just teachers who didn't want to be in the classroom, but that's okay. It doesn't mean they're bad with kids. They just had kind of a different look at what I thought we should be doing with social and emotional education. So when I work with kids, I really want them to have a say-so in what they do. I want to listen to them and tell me what kind of problems they need help solving. I don't think that I can have an expectation of a child if I haven't explicitly taught you and given you practice in what I'm expecting you to know. Going through my career, I heard a lot of things like, well, he's 8 years old, he should know. I said, well, when did you teach him? I don't know that age guarantees maturity. I know 10-year-old adults and I know 50-year-old children. I believe that we have a duty and responsibility to teach children behavioral expectations that we have for them. And then we also have a duty to allow them to think. I wasn't a great math student, and I was lucky enough to have teachers that knew that, and they allowed me to fail. I try to do the same with my program. I know you're not going to share every time. I know you're going to get mad and say something to me. I'm here to help coach you, but I'm not here to hold you to a perfect standard. The aim for progression, not perfection in my program. We aim to create a community that allows children. I really like working with all the kids. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of the parents already. And I believe that in order to really help kids, it does take a village, and that village can't just exist, it has to communicate with one another. I encourage you to reach out to me. I encourage you to work with me. And I just want to say thank you for letting me into your school. Have a good day. I also have business cards over there. If you want to know my email and stuff, just grab one on the way out. Pleasure meeting you all.
And just so you know, I think, as you mentioned, he's gotten to know all your kids. So he teaches classes every other week in all of the classrooms. And he'll put updates in the memo from time to time on what kind of topics he's talking about, what kind of issues. But he's always available to meet with your child privately, with you privately, anytime you need him, he's around. And he's gotten to know 360 kids faster than pretty much, I pride myself on getting to know kids really quickly, and I think he beat me this year of getting to know the kids. So thank you, Scott. So now we have time for some Q&A. Questions? Yes.
Good morning. TJ Faxer. I'm a kid in first grade, twins in second grade. Student at Meadows school from first grade on graduating. This thing I really like with good things. It's been a tradition here at Meadows school for a very long time. I remember my first one off Meadows Lane when I was in first grade. It was a big deal. And I'm really excited to see how it's almost been like tranched down to specifics. I think it's wonderful for these kids to learn specifics. It's not overarching good things. There's courage, there's empathy, there's respect, there's grit. I don't think it's but seeing recently one of my kids who's always wanted the first draft picks, like getting the he's always at the first or second round, will be forever his whole life in any capacity. That's just his style. Okay. But he came home and I'm like, what's that on your shirt? Oh, you got a good citizenship. I'm like, what? I know. Well, yeah, the teacher passed me this green nose, and it's almost secret society stuff. We'll report to this community, knock on the door 3 times, close your eyes, and she'll be there, sign this secret book, and we'll get something in the mail. And that nice thing of the mail almost fell out with our 2-for-1 coupon from K-1. I mean, it's sort of like, so we had this grand experience of a big deal for all the kids. Parents, this was like a celebratory event, like a big accomplishment. In a world where they don't get to celebrate too often individually, unless they're athletes or something outside school. But it's not all about that. My big takeaway here was, again, my aforementioned kid is a great student. He's always going to be this kid. What hurt me on this change of process and not understanding the why behind it is my other guy, Sage, is not this. He's much more needs to see good role models publicly and say, hey, I want to aspire to that position. He will never, in my opinion, be that first or second, third round draft pick, good citizen. But I think it's important to him. He does like to work at this. Okay, and to me, I think taking away the publicity of it, it's not so much to showcase Brooks here, but it's almost to create that grit and drive from Sage. I think was taken away. And it really set me back a little bit. I've been really short of thinking about this. So I really wanted to understand like why the change. And I see on that last thing is like the stigma of blast. But it also, I would also the stigma of blast, but rather I would say it's taking away the aspirational aspect of it for many that need to rise to the occasion. This isn't like math awards. I get it, take away the math awards, I think they should do that, but I get it. For some aren't math kids, we all should aspire to be good citizens. And I think we need to showcase our best and say, hey, you need to aspire to do this. Because the thinking that, hey, they've been like, oh, they know about it. So anecdotally, through the first one, I disagree with that. And that's the takeaway. So really, I want to understand more why the change was something that was pretty well established here in school. But also, was there thought given to the, not so much looking at the top kids, but really the impact that the kid is built here and the value they get from seeing the kid.
Sure.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. And, a lot of thought was given, as you said, to those lower tier kids. Is, it is really hard from a parent perspective, depending on how your kid takes these kind of things, but certainly from a teacher perspective, to be that kid who gets those awards after a certain point in the year, so after halfway through the year. It's really hard to be a kid to get the last award in May and to really feel like it's really still important. The way we structure it now, because we have different kind of themes going on, creativity is one of the last things that we're working on in the school year. So maybe respect wasn't your jam at the beginning of the year, but creativity is, because a lot of those kids, frankly, who maybe the behavior isn't so great, are those out-of-the-box kind of creative types, and they get an authentic kind of award in the spring, so it doesn't feel so stigmatized that I'm the last one to get it. There's also a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. A lot of this came from teachers' perspective on making the change. I'm sure you aren't one of the parents who does this, but there's a lot of campaigning that goes on behind the scenes of, my child's always been the first one. Why aren't they the first one? Why didn't they get it? A lot of pressure on getting it in a certain order. A lot of, explaining, because the Good Citizen umbrella, as you mentioned, was very subjective. So there were times in the public displays that we'd hear later, according to teachers who were here, I can't believe that child got that. So that went on a lot, believe me, I heard that over and over. And we feel also that, this is really for above and beyond, so recognize it doesn't need to be in the public setting. You mentioned your child, you feel like there's a secret society. I'm hearing from most of the classrooms that's not the case, that they know. And Amy, Carrie, do you want to speak to that a little?
Yeah, hi, I'm Carrie Freeman. I have a second grader, and actually it was funny because it happened earlier this week. My person she likes to see the role models, but she needs to know exactly what somebody looks like. She took classes for life. She came home and said, this young lady in her class got to go to Mrs. Kennedy's office, the good kind. And this is exactly what she did. This is what she did. This is who she did it with. She is so cool. She got the good Mrs. Kennedy. So she's going to get something in the mail. This is awesome. I'm like, okay, so I think they know, but they know specifically, because before, she just knew that this person was cool and they stood up on the podium and waved, like that was me. I like to stand on podiums too. But this time she actually got her check boxes. She did this, and it was awesome, and she helped this person in exactly this way. So my box checker really got a lot more out of it than that old way. So this for me and my kids, I really like the recognition. These kids talk nothing is good.
And another thing about doing it more naturally as well is this week I talked to 16 kids. There's a month between programs. So if we were doing it the other way, all those 16 kids would have to wait until next month as well. So this week, 16 kids is substantial. So to your point of role models, there's 16 kids who are getting their work this week. Scott, I think you wanted to jump in a little bit.
Yeah, you want to prepare a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
So this sort of a counter discussion though. There's almost a discussion on process where my kids, no one in the class can do that.
Okay.
Right? So sort of like, you can go ask right now and say, pull out the class. So, and it's more that celebratory, if you go into this class structure, there's a celebration there for him for earning that, doing those things the right way. That didn't happen. It doesn't have to be in front of the whole school or something, but these were different classes. So it's wonderful. Your daughter had that experience, but it's also, I think, it's a lost opportunity of showcasing, hey, even exemplifying. Brooks, you showed courage when you stood up to that fifth grader and stole your basketball. That was very brave of you.
Sure.
That's a cool thing. Oh, not recognizing an event that got this, right? Instead of not hide over here, sticker, and your parents didn't know that.
Sure.
So
we can talk.
We don't get to celebrate, right? It's sort of like that, and that wasn't really rolled out nicely.
Okay.
But that's more just the critique there. I love bifurcating it or bifurcating or in the script or so many things. But I think there's just a really lost opportunity and almost of growth there. you know, and it's not rolled out effectively across all platforms.
Okay, we'll talk about it as a faculty. I'll take your opinion into consideration. We'll talk about it because I do know in different classrooms, teachers present it different ways. So I know a teacher who does every week say, here were the good citizens for the week and here are the reasons. Other teachers do keep it, you know, a little quieter. So we'll discuss it and try to get some more consistency there. Mary Beth Cleveland, she wanted to mention something.
I just wanted to say, a lot of teachers really didn't like it. Then there's also the curse of the good citizen. You tell the parents a few days before, your kid's gonna be a good citizen, and then 2 days later they hit somebody. You're not, I'm sorry, you're saying that, I gotta ask somebody else. The kids who aren't gonna get it, I've got kids who just didn't even earn it at all. But this is like a smaller thing, it doesn't have to be such a grand gesture. The first kids, they're gonna act good whether they get it or not. It's not gonna like cause any deterioration of behavior in the school. I like your idea of sharing why they did that. But then some things like if your kid did something, if a kid did something there that wasn't terrible that I needed to contact the parent, but I did need to contact the parent, so I could justify why their kid wasn't going to be a good citizen. So there was a lot of that. Parents, especially in the older grades, would skip programs near the end of the year because it was too embarrassing when they knew that their child wasn't going to get a good citizen. So for the first few months, maybe it seemed great, but then it got progressively worse. And we have a lot of good kids. So, I mean, it was always hard to choose the first ones, but then hard to find a reason for some of the other ones. So we really like, most of us, I can't speak for everyone, we really like this. Because it doesn't have to be the theme of the month. You can just notice something great that a kid is doing and you can give them some recognition for it. So,
Okay, Mr. P is going to jump in and then we're going to go on to the next question.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot about this program here, and first of all, I want to thank you for your feedback. As a new faculty here, I understand that the school has a very proud tradition. And so I believe that in order to honor both, you know, conversion into update, you need to update everything. My iPhone update, something good requires update, well-respected tradition. This kind of communication is very important between faculty and staff. So the first thing I want to say. Secondly, I can understand both sides of this argument. It's very important thing. How do we reinforce the idea that treating people right? Certainly an important thing to discuss. From my perspective, every time I do something really kind, I'm not technically working. No. What I try, and also we're focusing a lot on what we're choosing over this recognition for good character. Not only focusing on tech, we've added an entire class with our social emotional languages. The class on the schedule where this is what we do. We talk about character. We talk about celebrating each other. We do celebrate each other. So while maybe a little certificate of how it presented got taken away, an entire class full of this content. Secondly, whenever I think about anything I'm doing with children, I try to be very intentional. One of the reasons my job is very exhausting is because I feel I have to be very thoughtful in everything I say and everything I do with a child. I've learned that the hard way. Kids learn two ways from me. They learn from what I say, and they learn from what I do. And so what I've noticed is that, you know, what I want to reinforce in children is the reward of doing something kind is that someone feels great and you do feel great about it. That when I tell a joke and someone starts laughing, I start laughing. That when I make Mom breakfast and she says thank you and she's smiling, I start smiling too. I want children to feel the inherent reward of being kind. I do not want them to do it in order to get a certificate. I do not want them to give in order to receive. So what Ms. Kennedy is talking about with these natural ways of doing it is that's what she's talking about. She's talking about allowing children to feel the world's role of being kind. And also, by going to Ms. Kennedy's office, it's fighting against stigmas that have existed in a lot of schools. That going to the principal's office is a bad thing. It's building relationships with staff and with staff. Sometimes we're stuck in our office for many years. We're trying to build a community. One of the biggest strengths I see of the school is the diversity in its population. and I want them to learn from each other. So what we're doing with that program is allowing them to experience what the world can do. You know what? Sometimes people don't know that we do something right. We need to feel that spirit. We need to be celebrating. Those are the messages that are spoken about in our class and in Ms. Kennedy's office. So while I understand all the perspectives here, and I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong, these are just different. What I want you to know is that the child will be celebrated for that, whether they get that certificate or not. The child will be celebrated.
Yeah, just to clarify, like, to tie it off on the end, I'm not so worried about the kid that knows it all the time. It's again about that role modelship of reflecting why someone received their certificate and know why. Instead of what is much more like solitude event. This is akin to a CIA officer going in and shaking things for taking the USB port out of North Korea. You can't tell anybody about it. You did a good job in your country. Yeah, good job. That's how I feel this is. Versus here's an opportunity, maybe it's within the class. It doesn't have to be this grand showcase here, but rather like, hey, little Johnny gets stood up to the fifth grader. The PE teacher saw that rewarded. Wasn't that a great lesson that we learned with Mr. P? We saw it in action. And that opportunity is not there to why. You know, from my own personal experience, how this was felt out.
So we'll take that into consideration. I think it's a good idea to share the kinds of things. You know, most teachers do share the kinds of things because often kids will ask, why did they get it? Oh, here's what we got. But we'll be more intentional about that. So I'll take that into consideration. And if you do hear that kids are coming to my office and playing golf, sometimes they are. I have little golf games on my desk and things like that. So that happens sometimes when they're in there kind of hanging out with me. So other questions, other topics before we wrap up for any of us? Yep, Mr. Barber.
The Monday dress uniform day, for kids that have mats afterwards, am I correct that it's okay for them to bring a change of shoes as long as they're able to change their shoes on their own? It's just that they don't.
Yeah, so the question was, are they able to bring a change of shoes because they have PE on Mondays?
Or change of outfit, because it's obviously cooling off now. But
Sure.
Yeah,
that's the one thing that teachers really ask is if they're able to change their shoes quickly and easily. Because it was hard if they're bringing lace shoes, if they bring Velcro shoes, that kind of thing. We prefer them in athletic shoes for PE. And next year we'll definitely look at the scheduling of the PE and the dress uniform. It kind of just happened that we just a lot of eyes were on the schedule and we just didn't notice it that, all the kids go to PE on dress uniform day. So that's not ideal, but we'll look at that for next year. That was one of my second first year things that happened. So. Okay, well, I look forward to getting to know all of your kindergartners better. I do know most of them now, and I look forward to getting to know them better this year. So thank you for coming, everybody, and have a great day. Thank you.